You're 45 or 50 or 55, and there's something you want to do, a change you want to make, a life you want to build that's completely different from the one you have. But every time you think about starting, that voice comes in. The one that says it's too late. You're too old, you've already invested too much time. Everyone else started at 25. You missed your window, so you stay. In the job you hate, in the relationship that died years ago, in the life that doesn't fit. Because starting over feels impossible when you're not young anymore. I know that voice because I heard it for years. And here's what I finally figured out. That voice, it's lying to you. I was 47 when I started over. Not in some small way, in a big way. Career, location, entire life structure. The kind of starting over that makes people ask if you're having a crisis. And I won't lie, it was terrifying. Because I'd spent 25 years building something, and walking away from that felt insane. But you know what felt more insane? Spending the next 25 years in a life I'd outgrown. Dying with the change I never made. So I did it. And here's what I learned that I wish someone had told me when I thought it was too late. First, too late is a story you're telling yourself. It's not a fact. You think it's too late because you're comparing yourself to people who started at 25. You're looking at where they are now and thinking you can never catch up. But here's what you're missing. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from experience. You're starting from skills. You're starting from self-knowledge they don't have yet. A 25-year-old starting something new is guessing. They're figuring it out through trial and error. They're making mistakes because they don't know any better. You already know what works and what doesn't. You already know what matters and what's noise. You already have networks, skills, and wisdom they'll spend the next 20 years learning. You're not behind. You're equipped. Second, the time is going to pass anyway. This is the thing that finally got me to move. I was sitting there thinking, if I start over now, I'll be 50 before I really get going. That's too old. And then I realized I'm going to be 50 anyway. Whether I make the change or not, time doesn't stop. So the question isn't, am I too old? The question is, do I want to be 50 in this same life? Or 50 in a life I actually chose? Because you're going to age either way. The only choice is whether you're aging into regret or into alignment. Third, starting over at 40 or 50 doesn't look like starting over at 25. And that's good. When you start over young, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall. Trying everything, pivoting constantly. You have time to waste. When you start over at 40 or 50, you're strategic. You know what you're building toward. You know what matters. You don't waste time on things that don't align. You're not exploring. You're executing. And that makes you faster, not slower. I watched people in their 20s flail around for years trying to figure out what they wanted. I knew exactly what I wanted. I'd had 25 years to clarify it. So when I started over, I moved with purpose. That's not a disadvantage, that's power. Fourth, starting over doesn't mean throwing everything away. This is what stopped me for years. I thought starting over meant burning it all down. Quitting everything, starting from absolute zero. But that's not what it means. Starting over means taking what's valuable from the life you built and redirecting it towards something that actually fits. The skills transfer, the relationships transfer, the experience transfers. You're not starting from scratch. You're pivoting from a foundation. I didn't throw away 25 years. I redirected them. Same skills. Different application, same values. Different expression. That's not starting over. That's course correcting, and you can do that at any age. Fifth, the fear of wasting what you've already invested keeps you wasting more. This is the sunk cost fallacy, and it's killing people. You've spent 20 years in this career, so you think leaving means those 20 years were wasted, but they're already spent. The question isn't, will I waste the past 20 years? The question is, will I waste the next 20? Because staying in something that doesn't fit just to justify time already spent, that's wasting more time, not saving it. The past 20 years taught you what you don't want. That's not waste, that's data. Now use it to build what you do want. Let me tell you what actually happened when I started over at 47. The first 3 months were terrifying. I questioned everything. I wondered if I'd made a huge mistake. I felt stupid for giving up stability, but then something shifted. I started waking up without dread. I started feeling like myself again. I started having energy for life instead of just surviving it. And 6 months in, I realized I wasn't starting over. I was starting. For the first time in years, I was actually living instead of just maintaining. The people who said I was crazy, most of them were jealous. Because I was doing what they were too afraid to do. The people who supported me, they were the ones who mattered. And I found more of them once I started living authentically. Here's what you need to know if you're standing where I was. Thinking it's too late. Thinking you missed your window. You haven't. The window doesn't close at 30. It doesn't close at 40. It doesn't close at 50. The only window that closes is when you die, and you're not dead yet. So stop letting too late steal the life you actually want. Here's what to do instead. First, separate too late from too scary. Most of the time when you say too late, what you mean is too scary. And scary is valid, but scary isn't the same as impossible. Second, stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. You're not behind them. You're on a different timeline, and your timeline includes wisdom they don't have yet. Third, start small. You don't have to burn everything down tomorrow. Make one small move toward the life you actually want. Then another, then another. Starting over is a series of small pivots, not one dramatic leap. Fourth, let go of perfect timing. There's never going to be a perfect time. There will always be a reason to wait. But waiting doesn't make it easier. It just makes you older and more stuck. Fifth, trust what you know. You've lived long enough to know what matters and what doesn't. Trust that, use it. That's not a disadvantage. That's your advantage. You're not too late. You're just scared. And scared makes sense. Because starting over when you're not young means giving up the illusion of safety. It means admitting the path you chose isn't working. It means risking what you've built for what you actually want. But here's what's scarier, staying for another 10 years, another 20. Dying with the change you never made. Living with regret instead of risk. That's the real fear. Not that you'll fail if you try, but that you'll succeed at the wrong life because you were too afraid to start over. So stop telling yourself it's too late. It's not too late to change careers. It's not too late to leave the relationship. It's not too late to move. It's not too late to start the thing you've always wanted to start. It's only too late if you keep waiting for it not to be scary, because it's always going to be scary. Change is scary. Growth is scary. Starting over is scary. But regret is scarier. I'm 50 now. 3 years into the life I started building at 47, and I have zero regrets. The only regret I have is that I didn't do it sooner, that I listened to too late for as long as I did. Because here's what I know now that I didn't know then. The life you want doesn't have an expiration date. You do, and the clock is ticking either way. So stop wasting time convincing yourself it's too late, and start using time building what you actually want. You're not too old. You're exactly the right age, right now, with all the wisdom you've accumulated, all the clarity you've gained, all the experience you've earned. That's not too late. That's perfectly timed. So start, not someday, today. Even if you're 40, even if you're 50, even if you're 60, it's not too late to start over. It's just time to stop telling yourself it is. Because the only thing that's actually too late is waiting until you're dead to start living, and you're not dead yet. So start.